again, Bots and Bits fans, welcome back. Today I have the absolute pleasure of bringing to you Neoarts NT-07 Leonidas. This is, of course, their 1-to-1 KO of the perfect effect Leonidas. Now, Neoarts have said they've made some improvements to the original mold, one such being using a different plastic formula for the major hinges. Apparently, hinge breakage was a problem on the original. Now, I don't own the original, and I don't know anybody that does, so I can't confidently say whether that was a true issue or not, but this is what Neoarts are telling me. Right, all that aside, let's take a look at the accessories that we get inside the box, and there are a lot of them. Alright, now, so in the box, we get the perfect effect stand with no PE logo. Of course, we get the arm, which is a very, very snug fit. And we get this little seat here, which just tabs on like that. We've got 2 tabs in there, and 2 tabs in his butt. And he just sits on it. Now, if the feet aren't touching the base, these hips are on a double hinge. So you just want to double hinge them down. A bit like that, and now you can see he's on there completely flat. Other accessories, we have the butt flap, which looks pretty good. It's just a solid white plastic. We have this grey detail inside the lines here. Let's just zoom in and have a better look. Have these grey lines which are 100% inside the lines. We've got this little gunmetal bit which is a little bit fuzzy on the edge, but otherwise fine. And that gold is really neat as well. Then we have his stubby Optimus Prime style weapons. Zoom in, there we go. And they come in line mode like this. And then to convert it to line mode, we just fold that up and we'll tab it into the butt flap. But before we do that, we'll show handheld mode, which is just like that. And let's quickly look at his hand. Now there's no weapon tabs or anything in this, but what we do have is a tab behind here, right, which just forces pressure onto the handle to keep it inside the hand. It works reasonably well. It's not the best connection in the world, but it does hold it in just fine. On the butt flap, for line mode, we're just going to fold that up, and we've got a tab here and a tab here. Now this is quite tight, so I'm very happy with that. So we just tab that in like so, and this is on a ratcheting joint. Look at that, not coming off. Perfect. Now we also have his 2 swords, as you can see here. Now the sheath is plastic. Let's just get that out of the way. It's confusing autofocus. There we go. The sheath is plastic, and we've got some nice neat silver detail there. This handle bit here is all die-cast metal, and it's painted with the red paint over the top and a little bit of green in there. Now that red isn't done very well. You can see that you've got a lot of color coming up underneath, but no, it's not the biggest fault in the world. This handle is also die-cast, and the blade is die-cast. I think that looks great. Now, I've pulled this in and out of the sheath a few times, and it hasn't scratched yet. I'm sure it will eventually, because that is a tight fit. But for the meantime, it hasn't scratched. And he holds them. Doesn't hold them as well as the blasters, but he will hold them. Same deal on this side with that peg that just forces it back, and he's come off. There we go. Holds it just fine, and that looks awesome. And then with the other one, we just grab this butt flap again, once it wants to focus, and we have this tab here, and we put it on this way for bot mode. So that's a tight fit, so that's not coming off or going anywhere. And then we have that one. Right, then we have his white crossbow, which is just a solid white plastic, no white paint, with these little red painted details. And again, you can see that they're all well in the line. That is just perfectly done. And everything on this just looks great, except for 2 things. One, I've got a bit of yellow shit on that hinge there. It's probably just a grease or a glue or something from the factory. And also this green paint here. It's not really a painted window or anything. It's just reflective paint in the shape of a rectangle. And he holds that just as well as the other weapons. Let's just slot that in, and it's all come apart. There you have it. Not the best looking weapon in the world. It's actually a little bit rubbish in my opinion, but he holds it just fine. And then transform it for line mode. We're just going to flick this handle, then we're going to fold this down like that, and then this is a super tight joint, so just support as much plastic as you can while doing it. just like that. And we can fold these up. And that's it for line or bot mode. And that just slots in this tab here into this gold section. Let's come up a bit. Gold section on his back. And it's another tight fit. Let's just... There we go. Chuck that in. And he's come off again. Little backpack. Next accessory are his Zoid sunnies. And they look alright. It's not for me, but I'm sure it's for some people. We've got a tab just in between his eyes, and we're just going to slot that in. And it's a reasonably long tab, so it holds on quite well. Like I said, not for me, but I'm sure it'll scratch the itch for some people. And then lastly, guys, we have his tail. We have his tail whip, which the hinges here, they're both loose and tight. Some of them are so tight they squeak, others are so loose that they flop. So if you want to make it a spear, you really have to angle all of these hinges. Let's just turn it around. So that one's really tight. Angle all of these hinges the same way. So when he holds it, it doesn't go left or right, it'll stay straight like that. But it is a cool accessory and it does work well. And just in case that we break some of these bits, let's just, why isn't this focusing? Come down here. Just in case we break some of these hinges, like Perfect Effect, Neoarts have also included some spares. Now this end section here does come off and split in half into two separate blades, which are very cool looking. Look at that. It's just a gunmetal cast plastic with a bit of clear red in it, but they do look awesome. And the handle size is exactly the same, so of course he's going to hold them probably the same as the others. So just chuck it in there and press against it. Let's just get rid of this and put the other one in. Holds them fine, and it's a good look. I like it. Now reattaching these back to the whip, let's just combine that up, chuck that in, and like I said before, these these hinges are also the same size as most of the weapons, so him holding them is not a problem at all. You just got to line it up the right way. Let's just get it like that. Get his other hand across, and he's come off again. And there, something like that. So I've just done that quick, but you can make it look much better. In fact, I've got a couple of photos on my Facebook at the moment of what you can do with this whip, either as a whip or a spear. It does create some dramatic posing. Right, so to get this whip onto the butt flap for robot and lion mode, let's just... So the way we are going to do this is start it here, bend it here, bend it there, fold this around, tab that in, and then bend this, bring it across, bend it again, and it's going to tab in again, right there, fold it up, and then complete those last two tabs. And there you have it, that is the tail all done. Now I'm just going to attach this last cannon to this tab, another tight tab, like that, and same, that ratcheted hinge, that's not coming off. And then on Leonidas himself, we have this little tab just in the back here. I'm going to grab this one. It's very small and very long, so be careful how you apply pressure. And then just angle these swords to get him under his arms. And then just slowly work that in. And there you have it. All of his accessories are on him, and they are very, very secure. I'm not concerned about them coming off at all. Also, I nearly forgot, we get these absolutely useless instructions inside the box. The pictures are so small, you cannot see what they're trying to tell you to do. You can tell that that's rotating the head, but apart from that, they are not clear at all. And the accessories in line mode, you can just leave them just like in bot mode, with the swords on the hips like this, the tail and the weapons and all that. Or you can turn these around to have them like rail guns over the shoulder. Or with the swords, you can take them off. We'll just take one off, and then we get the crossbow and fold the arm out. Let's just take it off and do it. Fold the arm out, bring the peg out, slot this back in. Come on. It's such a tight fit, it's just super awkward to get back in. It's so annoying. It's good enough. And then plug this in this way. stand up. My God, stand up. And it's meant to be able to go over the shoulder like that, but it's not really very tight, as you can see. So it's it's a wasted effort, really. It's not strong at all. But anyway, the other accessories, got his cannons on the back, which aim up like that. They don't rotate or anything, but you can just sort of do a little bit of twisting like that to get the desired angle. Do they come forward? They come forward a little bit more if you don't want them straight up. You can sort of have them like artillery. That looks alright, just like that. And the tail is the tail. Now there's a few things we'll cover when we get into line mode properly, but I'm finding this joint here is a real issue, as you can see. So, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. There is a lot of moving parts in this, so going from one position or pose to the other, you'll find yourself moving bits that you didn't think you would need to. Oh, shit. And there we have one of my first issues with this guy. The feet, well, at least the feet on mine, I've had dramas with these feet since I first got it. And my first issue was a pretty big issue. I couldn't get him to stand at all. The problem was these sections here, the soles of his feet. Let me just zoom in on that. You see what I'm talking about. The soles of his feet, this panel here, right, goes into this rear toe. There are just 2 tabs there and 2 tabs back here inside the foot. And these tabs push against this ball socket, right? So whenever I would manipulate this ankle section here would come off and run up this stem, right? And then this bit, hang on, this bit here, focus, this bit here would come out, and this whole ankle would be completely loose, and he just would not stand up at all. It kept happening over and over, and it's happened on this one as well. So I didn't want to glue it, just in case the pressure of the ball socket ended up snapping the plastic, that like the pressure inside was stronger than the glue holding it. So I went out and I bought some Loctite. I bought Loctite glue, and I just put little bits in each corner and along the rims here. And that seems to have held it in really well. I can manipulate this now, and it's not coming loose. It's not coming, you know, it's fine. The ball sockets are really stiff. So the ball sockets themselves were stiffer than the plastic tabs. But with the Loctite glue on there, it's fine. I do have a little bit of residue that's squished out, but that holds fine. The next problem is in here. This ball socket here, not very tight at all. It cannot hold much pressure at all, and it's consistent for me on both sides. So when positioning him, let's just get down to his feet and have a look. When positioning him, you really want this part of the foot flat and weight on the heel, because that ball socket is strong. He's not going to fall backwards really unless you get him too off center. But when leaning him forward, these toes, they just, see, they cannot hold any weight. So you really need his feet sitting on the black. Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. There. You have to have the feet flat. Let me just, so like a running pose or a walking pose or something, you need to at least have one flat weight-bearing foot. And see, there's just, those toes just aren't cutting it. So just bring this back a bit. There's a lot of manipulation you need to do. Oh, there we go. So now he's resting on the back of this other foot. See, so all of the weight, all of the balance is coming from there. This foot is hardly doing anything, see? It is a real, what's the best word for it? It is a real game. You have to play with this guy to get him balanced in a way that these toes aren't bearing much weight whatsoever. I'm sure a bit of clear nail polish or maybe a bit of super glue or something onto the ball socket of those toes would really help, but it would have been nice if, it would have been great if Neoarts could have improved that ball socket a bit. Right, just one more thing about the feet before I move on, and I promise this segues into the next topic. When I reattached these feet, right, when I was pushing the ball socket back into the foot, now I've already said it's a very stiff ball socket, but I'm not sure you realise just how stiff I mean. The way that I did this was I was holding the leg like this, right? And my thumb has just gone and taken all of that silver paint off. See, it's just all white there. Have silver all there. That's all white. My thumb just wiped that clean off, and it's done it a little bit here. Well, I've done it a little bit here. You can see I've taken more white paint off right there. So that is incredibly disappointing about this section here. Thankfully, I haven't had that happen anywhere else on the legs. The rest of the silver on those side bits looks fine. That gold done up inside the vent there, that looks fine. All of this white, this is all powder coated. All of this shin section, that all looks great. Everything looks fine. The gold on the toes, you can see that is just a beautiful gold. And it is really, really consistent on every single claw. Up into the kneecaps, see the red in the kneecaps is done super well. That is an awesome contrast, especially onto the white legs. Let me just get this guy standing a bit better. So I am impressed with that red paint quality. And then we've got the silver around here. This is all plastic up this bit. Let's just fix this camera a little bit, bring it out. There we go. So all this section here, this is all plastic. So that silver is on there pretty well, and it matches what I call the ankle piece pretty well. Doesn't match the die cast bit. You can see that the paint on the die cast is much shinier than what's on the plastic, but that's just the price of admission, really. That's just what we have to deal with. A few little painted details inside the thigh here. Let's get this arm right out of the way. All up in here. This is all 100% in the lines. The detailing is fantastic. There's no smudging, there's no drops of paint. All of this being white, you could really mess it up easily just being sloppy with your paintwork. Now, they've done it perfectly. Then we've got the grey gunmetal plastic in the back of the legs, which has a very slight reflection to it. Moving up a little bit further where everything gets a little bit more interesting. So all the red in here, we've got the dark red bits which are molded plastic, but then these sections here are all painted. This is all molded brighter red plastic. We've got some paintwork just here, and then we can open the chest up on ball joints and a hinge, and we can get a very small matrix, which unfortunately isn't painted as well as the rest of it. It's just that gold is just fuzzy, that's all. Might not be able to see it under this light, but to the naked eye, that is a little bit fuzzy. It's small enough that you probably aren't ever going to notice it. White plastic up here in the shoulder ball joints, and then further up we have Prime's head. Now the sculpt work is really sharp on this. They've done a fantastic job of replicating perfect effect. But something they've done a little bit different on this one is they've made the eyes a brighter red, and also made the eyes a little bit bigger. I think the perfect effect had like a black outline around it. Those bright red eyes, I just don't think they fit in. I'm not happy with them. Maybe I'll repaint them at some stage. It wouldn't be difficult. But that is just a very small gripe. The blue paint on this is done fantastic. That is just a super reflective blue. The gunmetal detailing is also done super well. So apart from me personally not being a fan of those red eyes, perfect. Now this shoulder section here is all die cast with the exception of this little movable flap here. Now in hand, you can tell the difference between this gold and the gold on the lion's head. This has a very slight powdery complexion to it. You can see, yeah, powdery. It's really obvious. Whereas looking at this gold, it has a perfect gradient. The transition on the plastic is much better than on the die cast, but it's only very slightly noticeable. So on the lion's head, I already have mentioned that gold looks amazing. The red is done perfectly. There's no color coming up underneath it, and it's all 100% in the lines, so there's nothing to complain about there. Onto the lion's head, this thing just looks amazing, doesn't it? Look at that. The sort of black and silver ink work in around the eye, all of this gunmetal silver paint just sitting in here perfectly. Nothing is outside of the lines. That is just, hang on, he's going to fall over. Stand up. There we go. It is just all 100% in the lines. It is just all done perfectly. I'm really impressed with the quality and how this has turned out. And around to the back, there's not much going on paint-wise here. We do have a little bit of gold in there where the crossbow goes, and we've got a little bit of white. Now with these hinges, let me just show you. There's a tab hole here. At first, I couldn't get this in. I didn't want to apply too much pressure because you do feel like you're going to break this thing at any minute just because there are so many moving parts. But it does just need the right angle and a little bit of force just to secure that tab. Hang on. There we go. Now it's in. And while I'm here, I'm just going to close this up. Yep, and it's popped out. Right, so back around the back. So just a little bit of white paint just for those tab sections. And then we have, is that white paint? No, white plastic. And all this maroon paint, this dark red sort of cherry color, that's all cast red as well, with a little bit of ink work, which looks pretty good. Around to the arms is just cast red plastic, cast white plastic with some silver and black ink wash details, done well. Same with the claws, they are just as consistent as the lower claws, there are no scratching or anything. Gold is done perfect. Then we get to the forearms. Now these are die cast, these white sections, and you can see the paint is just a little bit thick. Not sure if that's coming up on camera or not. I can see a very tiny lumpiness, just the smallest bit. If it wasn't under these lights, you probably would not even notice it. So I haven't come across any scratching or anything just yet, I don't think. A little bit, hang on, stand up. Stand up. Let me just get up here and focus on this. Tiniest amount of scratching just around this lip here. And then the rest of it is just cast plastic. This red here, the blue in the hand, and the hand cover thing. I didn't cover the crutch area. The crutch area and this ring around here is all plastic painted sort of gunmetal dark silver, and this white is painted over the top of that, so you can see some of the silver speckle. Gives a little bit of a pearl sort of finish to it, which looks nice, but nothing else on this has that same finish, so it sort of sticks out a little bit, as you would expect. Articulation on this guy is incredible. There's just so much moving and so much to do, but like I said before, it's a bit of a game. Like you fight one joint to move the other, and a lot of the joints in this are really stiff, which is what you would like. He's not going to fall over or flop about in most of his limbs, but it does mean that if you position him, you can't sort of grab the leg and just reposition it in a natural way. You really got to make micro adjustments, test whether he'll stand up, make another micro adjustment. So it's a frustrating process making this guy dynamic. But anyway, so the articulation starts out with these individual toes, this incredibly stiff ball socket here, ankle, lower shin cover. You got a little sliding mechanism just in there. You'll watch it go up and down like that. Double jointed knee. We've got a hinge here, and the knee pad is on a slider. We can bend it that far. Second hinge, we'll get it all the way around. And those ratchets, while they don't sound very loud, are incredibly strong. They are very, very strong. Up to the hips. Now we do have a ball socket on a hinge, so we can get a little bit of movement, and then we can also lever this section higher or down lower, and it's a little bit squeaky. The up and down is tight, but that is a little bit loose. See, and all the way out, that die cast does give it a little bit too much weight. It doesn't take much for that to fall. Waist swivel, crunch at the lower waist. Then we have this joint here, which we can bring forward and bring backwards, and then in line mode, you pull it up like that, so you can get it even more forward if you really wanted to, if you want to have that crutch thrusting pose that is in all the anime. The head is on a ball socket up the top here, but then you got the neck section, then there's a ball socket underneath the neck. So you do have a lot of movement going on in there. I would like him to look up more, so like you pull that forward. I'd like to be able to get more of an up stance when posing this guy. If you have him like bent over, I'd really like to be able to pull his head out a bit more and get it more up, but that'll have to do. Right, so then into the shoulders, we have these two large ball sockets here. I'm just going to move these out of the way. We have the stalk here with another ball socket on the end for the shoulders. So you do get another ton of movement out of that. We have the upper bicep swivel, which isn't as tight as you'd like. And that's the same. This one is in fact looser. It's not that great. I don't think there are any screws. Oop, what did I just fling off? Hang on. Great. A little piece from his sides has just flung off really easily, and flinging it off has made a big stress mark on the back side of it. So that's just a couple little tabs there. I think I'm just gonna, if that doesn't go back on firmly, I'm just gonna super glue it. No, it's not. That sucks. Nah, that just does not want to stay on. What a pain in the ass. And it just wants to pop right back off. Look at that. Nah, gonna have to glue it. Alright, so back onto the arms. Go down to the elbow. Now the elbows are really stiff. Stiffer than the rest of the arms, which is what I was sort of saying before about having to fight this thing. You just want to really easily move this elbow. You can't, especially if you've got him posed dynamically. You've just got him to balance. You've got to hold his body still and move the arm, but it's too strong. It's much stronger than these two ball sockets, and it is the same, or actually not too bad on this side. I'm getting a bit of movement out of it. Down to the wrist, we do have a wrist swivel on both sides. There is also a hinge here and a very tight joint. See that hinge? Super tight and a little bit scary to use. You feel like you're going to break it, but you can get an angle like that. So just pull one of the swords out. You can have him hold a sword like that. Single pin in the hand for all of the fingers. I wish that these fingers would have opened a little bit further. As dynamic as this guy is, that is not a dynamic hand pose. Let's get into some transformation. Now, to look at this guy, he looks like he would be quite complex, but really all you're doing is laying him down. So to do that, we're going to bend the first ratchet, bring this forward, bend the second ratchet all the way. Pull on this ankle and push on this at the same time. Now I'm not 100% sure what to do with Prime's head here. The instructions say just to bring Prime's head all the way forward, bring these sections up. I would have thought that these would have covered his head somehow, but no. Bring these sections up and forward, and fold the hands up and make them face that way. Fold this section around and bring the toes up. See this hinge here? Gonna fold that in like that. Hang on, let me just get that out of the way. So we're gonna fold that hinge in and bring it down. Rotate that around. Fold the arm down at the ratchet over the top of the other arm. Now we've got a tab there and a tab there on the grey plastic, and they're going to go into these. Now this being die cast, the plastic tabs do not sit in very well, but you can get them in. It's just a lot of moving parts, and you feel like you don't want to put much pressure on it, you know? So it's just so many moving parts. There's no great spot to grab this and just push something. Usually I just skip this, but alright there, that seems decent enough. And then just collapse all of that in. Section just under here, I'm going to fold that down to help cover some of Prime's head. Actually, I'm just going to recollapse this torso because that bend is just not helping posability. And then we bring in our accessory butt flap. Here's an awkward thing to hold and manipulate. There you have him. And he is an impressive looking lion, that's for sure. I don't have any connection to this at all. I had to do a little bit of research to find out who Leo Convoy actually was and what relevance he had. I don't really care. I like the look of him. I think he looks fantastic. So I'm gonna buy him and I'm gonna put him on my shelf. With all the manipulation, this has gotten loose. But thankfully, you can just turn that hinge a bit, and there we go. Right, there he is in line mode. I don't really want to touch him too much now that I've got him standing properly. But the articulation is as you would expect. We have the elbow and the leg there. We have his paw moving like that with the individual toes. And when you bring his paw forward, you can just lean this back a bit like that to fill in that gap. So that's good. So we can get him in some ready to pounce poses. But unfortunately, the shoulders sort of give way. And I can see now why Neoarts might have made that shoulder so strong. I'm sure this one was meant to be strong as well, but now it's not. And this transformation joint here is coming out when there's pressure applied to it, which is really, really frustrating. It's just, I don't know. Back legs are fine. Back legs are strong as. That is really good. But just these front ones, that's a bit disappointing. But not entirely unexpected considering how hard he is to pose as a robot as well. Yeah, that elbow is just getting worse and worse. And then the bicep swivel on the other side. God, come on, you're embarrassing me. Alright, finally I got him standing again. Jesus. Not impressed with the front legs. That's just... Oh man, in robot mode it's hard to get the rear legs done. In line mode it's hard to get the front legs done. That's just... Yeah. Looks awesome though. So there's articulation in the head. Heaps of it, but it does break up the sculpt. Like, at no point can you not see that this is just a head floating there. Surely there was a better way of doing this. It's not your regular transformer where everything tabs in, where everything sort of has a place, everything... No, the way that this works is everything just sits somewhere, right? The hand just sits up here. The leg... And that's it. I think I've covered everything. Actually, I've probably missed a couple of things. This is a complex beast after all. A complex and confusing beast, much like ex-girlfriends. The Perfect Effect design wasn't very good to begin with, in my opinion. So yes, line mode is a bit on the shit side, well for me anyway. But then we have bot mode, and bot mode, my god, Perfect Effect, their design team made an amazing looking bot mode, I have to tell you. Forget line mode, bot mode is just all you need. And Neoarts have faithfully reproduced that. That said, as you know, I did have issues with him in bot mode. Straight out of the box, he couldn't stand up. Feet were messed up, had to glue the soles back on. Not like a big fix, quite simple. Still, a fault straight out of the box. And then I did damage that paint putting the feet back on, which sucked. It was partially my fault, partially their fault. Paint is delicate, so just beware. And he's just downright frustrating to pose and play with. You're fighting with this figure. You pose one leg, adjust everything, and then you put him down, won't stand up. You gotta make more adjustments to the other leg, to the torso, to the arms. You gotta get the weight distribution right because the ball socket on those front toes is useless. He's frustrating, but beautiful, like a spoiled Instagram model. You love looking at it, but you don't want to talk to it. But that doesn't mean I'm not really excited to finally have this guy, and at like half the price of Perfect Effect, with what looks like the exact same, or if not better, finish. Beautiful finish. Really, I've only got 4 major complaints. The feet were messed up straight out of the box. The toes ball socket in bot mode, useless on mine. Line mode, the design sucks, right? Line mode, the front legs are weak. That's it, those 4 things. If you can live with those 4 things, you're gonna love this. Even if you can't, I think you're gonna love it anyway. I can't wait to have this on the stand, posed dynamically, and on my shelf so I can never touch the thing ever again and just look at it and be like, ah, isn't it lovely? And that's all I've got for you. Now, if you enjoyed my video and you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe to my channel. Remember to check out my Facebook for daily news and updates on third-party and KO stuff. July was a big month, August is going to be an even bigger month, so stay tuned for more details. And as always guys, thank you very much for your time and thanks for watching.